Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Changing the Questions, where we take one question, turn it upside down, turn it right back on its head, upside down, wherever. Fuck it, start again.
All right.
Fuck it.
All right, just go again.
Yeah.
We'll keep it rolling. Just go again. Right?
3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Changing the Questions, where we take one question, take its sneakers off, tie them together, throw them over an electrical wire, and then have somebody take them down and put it back on your feet again. My name is Mike Miner. My partner here, Paul Laporte.
Hello.
And today we're going to be discussing a subject that, well, is kind of controversial, but shouldn't be. It should be discussed. I think it's time that we've talked about it. We're going to get into the subject of hazing. Over the last, well, as far as professional wrestling has been around, you've seen different things happen with different wrestlers where, you hear the stories about one guy being bullied or one woman being bullied, and, it's one of those things that the business has always had in it. And as far as it goes to the modern time today, and, is it still acceptable? We'll go from there. What do you think? How do you want to start this?
So normally, at least in the past probably month or so of Changing the Questions episodes, we try and do point, counterpoint. One of us tries to take the devil's advocate side. Even maybe if we both agree on the same thing, we'll be like, all right, I'll take this side of it. I can make some points. This is going to be one of the rare episodes in which we are just going to rip this to shreds.
Yeah, let me be completely blunt. We're going to fucking shred this apart.
Yes. So the reason that we're doing this show is because as of the time that we're recording, it was this past weekend, Gabby Gastrovinci, I think is the way you say her name. She's from Tough Enough, one of the Tough Enough contestants. She was one of the ones who lost, but she's now working in TNA as Raquel. She was booked on an independent show in a three-way match, and the women that she was working with took liberties with her, caused multiple bruising, cracked her jaw, knocked out one of her teeth, I believe.
Yeah.
And then she complained about it. The story was picked up by the media.
Let's be honest, rightfully so. She had every single right to complain about this.
I'm setting this up.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then there were certain people, lots of people in the internet wrestling community who were speaking out against her. Like, this is what you should expect. This is what the business is. That's fine. That's expected. IWC can be gross. But the one that really got me was that cheerleader Melissa put up something on Twitter like, oh, yeah, like, real women's wrestlers get bumps and bruises and don't complain to the media about it.
But they also don't get their fucking teeth knocked out intentionally.
Right. And that's the thing, is that there's this weird sort of old school mentality that still exists with certain independent wrestlers and on certain shows, and it's always like lower level shows these days, and maybe this still happens in WWE. I'm sure it still does to some extent, but the idea is that, the veterans can basically do what they want to the younger people because that's just what happened to them, and then they get the right to pay it forward.
Yeah, let's see if you can actually endure this, and if you can, guess what? You've got a place with us.
And this mentality is, in my opinion,
gross.
It's gross, it's harmful, and it's not just physically harmful to people, but it's harmful to the business as a whole. It hurts the credibility of the business that this thing is still seen as acceptable, and it leads to real long-term consequences, not just, oh, hey, like, this happened to me and I'm done. And the one I'm going to name specifically, and this wasn't necessarily a case of hazing a new person, because this person had been in wrestling for a little bit, but around a year ago, this time last year roughly, in the Japanese women's promotion started, there was an incident that has become known as the Ghastly match. Okay? And for those of you who don't know about this incident, what happened is that this was for their main title, the World of Stardom Championship. I believe that's the belt it was for. And it was between Yoshiko, who was their current reigning champion, big girl, very tough, very strong, just seen as one of those really bruising, brawling people, and Act Yasukawa, who is a kind of someone who came up through the ranks, somebody who was seen as a fan favorite and upstart. Even though she's older, she's mid-20s, still seen as kind of the up-and-comer. Well, the match started, And Yoshiko decided that she was not going to play ball. Aki Yasukawa was supposed to win the title. She was going to be the new championship, and Yoshiko decided that she was not going to make that easy for her, and legitimately beat her, punched her, kicked her over and over repeatedly, to the point where Aki Yasukawa sustained multiple facial fractures, including her orbital sockets, her nasal cavity, her jaw, multiple injuries that put her on the shelf for months, and then ultimately led to her retiring late last year at the age of 28 years old because of the injuries that she suffered as a result of that. And the thing that was so gross about the Gabby incident that took place is that sort of incident makes it okay for the Yoshiko incident to happen. It makes it okay. That sort of tolerance for that behavior leads to tolerance for that. And even in that incident, as bad as it was, there were still some people, some old school people in the locker room saying, that's just part of the business. That's what happened.
Ready for it. You gotta defend yourself.
She should have been able to handle herself.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's gross. Like we've said, we keep using that phrase over and over, but it is. It's you're literally trying to beat somebody into unconsciousness, into injury. Why? What's the point? You're supposed to be doing this for a living. You're supposed to be working with somebody. Yeah. That's it. You're working with somebody.
And that's exactly it.
And the thing lately that I've been seeing go around, especially with something in regards to what, happened with Titus O'Neil, you gotta be professional. You gotta be professional. It is not fucking professional to go and knock somebody's teeth out. It's not professional to give somebody an intentional concussion. It's not professional to go and break somebody's orbital socket. Come on. I mean, this is sick.
And here's the funny thing is that, okay, so I always view professional... everybody says professional...
I'll save that for a second, yeah.
Everybody says professional wrestling is like the business of professional wrestling. Professional wrestling, they always refer to professional wrestling as quote-unquote the business, like, because everybody loves Jim Cornette.
Treat it like a fucking business.
Okay, well, like, we'll get away from that, but we'll say I tend to view professional wrestling more as an art. We've discussed this here before. And the art of professional wrestling is taking your body and putting it and trusting it with somebody else to the point where you guys are going to put on the best show possible while hurting each other as little as you can.
Bret the Hitman Hart makes it a point every time he gets a chance to mention it that he went years and years without hurting a single person, and he looked amazing looking like he was getting hurt, and he made it look amazing for the other guy looking like they were getting hurt. Right. He looked like he was hurting people.
Yeah.
The other guy looked like they were getting hurt.
Now,
he looked like he was
if you and your opponent agree before the match and say, "Listen, let's lay into each other harder.
Let's potato the shit out of each other."
You have Katsuyori Shibata and Tomohiro Ishii want to just headbutt each other for 25 minutes. Okay, fine. They agreed to that. Okay.
That's on them if they get injured.
Exactly. Or it's same thing if there's just a random errant shot that catches you the wrong way, that was an accident or whatever, okay, fine. But where the line is drawn is at, oh, here's this person who isn't expecting me to be doing this to them and trusts me.
Taking liberties.
And trusts me with their body. I am going to violate that trust and specifically hurt them. And the thing is that if you ask people who are not, assholes and psychopaths, because those are only the people who have that mentality.
Yeah.
If you ask veterans or new people, like I discussed this with Scott, our member of the CTQ crew, who him and his brother are independent wrestlers.
What's up, Scott?
And he basically said the same thing, that you are trusting yourself with a person, and you should be treating that person in the way that you would want to be treated were you in their shoes. So if you look at it that way, it's wrong.
Sense.
Now let's go ahead and look at it like a business. The business of professional wrestling. Everybody talks about drawing money and putting butts in seats and doing whatever. Let's talk about pro wrestling as a business. Take a look at any other fucking business on the planet. You work at a bank, Miner. Let's go ahead and say that that there was a new person working at the bank who you didn't like. You couldn't just like hit him.
Let's say
hit him
let's say worked at a bank. Let's
Yeah.
just leave it like that.
Yeah, like you couldn't just like hit that person with a stapler because they're new, and then everybody would just kind of expect like, well, you're new. I mean, that's welcome to the bank. It's crazy.
I mean, even you can't even treat them like shit because it's
right,
not
you
proper.
can't even be an asshole to them, let alone assault them. Like you can literally in professional wrestling commit a crime that you virtually cannot be convicted of because of the circumstances of the performance, and people think that this is okay.
And if somebody
It's nuts.
if somebody rubs you the wrong way, let management take care of it. And if they don't take care of it, you got other choices.
And here's the thing, like I'm sure I'm like 75% positive based on what I've heard of her and what I've seen of her on television. She was probably a pain in the ass at that show.
She's a pain in the ass, but you do not, under any circumstances, beat the shit out of somebody.
Yeah, just because somebody's
break their fucking face nearly in half, knock a tooth out. You don't do that. It's not right.
And for people like cheerleader Melissa to say that this is an acceptable thing, like I want to know from her, was it acceptable when it happened to Aki Yasukawa? Like, was that okay? Like, is that acceptable? Is that, like, where is the line drawn? And is it only because it's somebody we don't like? Because really, that's what it is. It just comes to me like it's, well, we're going to beat the shit out of people who annoy us because we can. And that is just you gotta let
management. You gotta let management take care of it. And if they don't take care of it, like I said, you got choices.
Then,
you can find either. You can either bring something up and say, look, I can't work with this person. They'll ask, well, why can't you work with this person? Yeah. And it might put you in a shit position.
And if you're working for a place that's booking people that don't deserve it over you, then go work somewhere else.
If they're a true piece of shit, it's going to be found out. They're going to be taken care of. That's it. And on the other hand, you get somebody that like TNA. Recently, with Reby Sky and Awesome Kong. As much as I love Awesome Kong in the ring, what she did was wrong. TNA made the right decision with that. Yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe they could have been a little bit lighter on her.
And the funny thing about all that...
This shit is not acceptable. And then you have WWE with the Be a Star campaign. And,
And the funny thing about that is that, people are saying, like, oh, rumors are going around that Awesome Kong is gonna go back to WWE. Like, fuck no, she's not. They're not going within a mile of her. They're not going within 100 miles of her.
Yeah.
WWE is not going to pick up anybody with problems like that ever again. She's going to need to spend years on the independent scene working actively against that reputation. If she wants a prayer of a tryout again with them, I don't care if she's been in the company before.
But you know what? Weirder things have happened. Like I mentioned earlier.
They won't pick her up. They'll never go near her again.
Like I said, weirder things have happened. If they think they can make money off of it, they'll hire her. If they think that she's straight enough in the head to where she's not going to attack somebody, they'll pick her up. The whole Titus O'Neil thing that happened, that guy is one of the nicest guys around as far as that company goes. He volunteers his time. He feeds the homeless. And, rumor has it, I guess he wanted to say, hey, Vince, let Stephanie go first. Women first.
And
he got fucking suspended for 90 days, almost fired, and then it was dropped to 60 days and $5,000 fine? Come on, give me a fucking break.
If they came down on him that hard for doing that, there's no way they're going near Awesome Kong. And I will say, for all the faults that WWE gets, they have improved greatly in this area. That they fired Bill DeMott for being a caustic, awful trainer.
The reason they fired him is because it was brought to light, and a lot of people got behind it.
It did come out to the
public.
And
that is shit. That should not happen. Somebody should be paying attention to that kind of stuff and say, look, this is unacceptable.
But I think that they are getting better with that in general going forward. And I think that this is one of the places where the independent scene is lagging behind, whereas in virtually every other way it's juxtaposed, and the independent scene is still ahead of the big leagues. I think in this way, when you have that many people going around unchecked, people who are getting paid very little, people who are had to drive 8 hours to get paid $30, they're people who they're angry, they're young, they're full of testosterone or what have you, and they are. And God knows what else, also, because the drug testing in the independent scene not the best. That's where the problems are, and I think the fact that we still see this as acceptable, and I think that some of the fault needs to lie on the shoulders of the fans, where we hear stories of certain guys getting hazed that we like certain guys that we don't like getting shit or having pranks pulled on them or getting hazed or whatever, like the Sunny Slot Bucket incident.
I mean, if you want to rip somebody, okay,
we think
but if you want to be shitty...
We think that that's cool, and it becomes like lore and legend in internet wrestling history, or just wrestling history in general. I think we contribute to that, and we need to stop accepting and, in certain cases, encouraging this behavior if we ever expect it to go away.
Yeah, the things with, like, Vicky Guerrero and who was it, Mickey James, stuff from within the last 10 years, the shaming about their looks, just it's heinous. But God, it's terrible, man. And like, we don't just say this as a couple of guys. Oh yeah, we're angry. We have a microphone, whatever. We've talked to a lot of the guys before on the independent scene. We have asked them their opinions. We have chatted with them, and I'm sure that they wouldn't agree with knocking somebody's fucking tooth out unless they agreed to it.
The thing is, some will, some won't.
Some will, some won't.
And that's
just like anybody. And the funny part about it is, if you're going to do anything with anybody, maybe when they start training, there was an old school way of training. You run the guy up and down stairs 100 times with somebody on their shoulders. Maybe you do that. Maybe you find something else to do to see if somebody gets toughened up. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to torture them, but you want to toughen them up, I guess. But there's a very thin line. You can't abuse a person, and then
here's the question, though.
It's weird. It's a very weird spot.
We'll end with this: is that you talk about toughening them up and getting them hard. What are you toughening them up for? The only reason that you toughen people, or that people get toughened up by this hazing, is so they can resist hazing from other people.
Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just another old school way of thinking, the way it used to be, where you have to toughen these guys up, quote unquote. And, you run them through the ringer, you make them go up and down the stairs 100 times, three flights of stairs 100 times with somebody on their shoulders, or you do 1,000 squats. Here's because they were trying to protect people. They were trying to protect the business from having, the wrong kind of guys going and kind of like,
So here's where
it's very weird.
Here's where I'm going to kind of end my thoughts on this. My thoughts? I don't know why I got a Long Island accent.
I think like the accents are flying around lately.
Here's my thoughts on this.
What are your thoughts?
I'm not gonna make the claim that I'm like some big wrestling insider guy, but I've been in locker rooms for multiple companies before,
and we've talked, guys, and
in different things,
hung around them a little bit.
Yes, so I've been in locker rooms. I know kind of generally like when a vibe in a locker room is positive and when a vibe in a locker room is negative, and everybody's kind of shitty towards each other.
It's like any workplace,
and every single time the positive locker room puts on the better show than the negative one.
Absolutely.
When people are trusting each other and liking each other's company and getting along, they put on better shows than the guys who want to undercut each other and beat each other up and be shitty to each other. They always put on the worst shows. And that's what pro wrestling's supposed to be about, whether it's the business or the art. You're trying to put as many asses in the seats as you can. You're trying to put on the best show you can. And every single locker room I've been in, or every show I've been to where there was a positive vibe, always puts on the better show than the ones where everybody's fucking jaded and negative and hates each other. Period.
Yeah, that's any business. You go to any business, and if you get morale's down, guess what? Things aren't going to go as smoothly as they should. And then you got to figure out what the problem is, cut it out. Fix the problem, solve it, move on. But when we still have shit like this happening, it's a detriment to the entire business. Not one small spot. WWE can say, oh yeah, we're not associated with them, we got the Be a Star thing, and they have to reiterate, we don't endorse this bullshit. And, I'm going to quickly mention that the guy from Tough Enough, Josh, I don't agree with what he said and all this stuff a couple weeks back on Twitter, but don't publicly air it. Don't say enjoy.
But in my own this
is very tough.
This is turning the microscope back on me and like saying that I'm almost a hypocrite in this situation. When that happened, when he was like saying all that shit about the social outcasts and stuff like that, I was going around the internet making exactly, it was shitty. But I was going around the internet making comments of and then the rumor was that he was going to be in the Royal Rumble. Is that
just like
who's gonna beat the shit out of Josh?
That's what I was saying. saying.
And I was like, in part of my head, I was like looking forward to it.
Well,
that's wrong. Like I was bad.
But you know,
for
that's a primal thing too, because you expect
but I
it.
shouldn't. I should be practicing what I preach. That should not be acceptable.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's just like Dexter. You watch Dexter a couple of years back, and you go. People go, oh yeah, I can't wait to see him get it. The guy's a fucking murderer.
Yeah, Dexter.
And I can't exactly compare Dexter, the murderer, to a
that-
professional wrestler that takes liberties with somebody.
No,
but
well,
it's
Dexter
along the
was-
same kind of thing. You're looking to intentionally hurt somebody in some way, and and teach them some kind of lesson. Whether their life ends or not, or whether they're going to be hurt for a little while, there's a difference. But it's one of those things where, who was it years ago? It was Daniel Puder. He went through the hazing in the ring, and then after that, you didn't see him again.
And then the Matt Capitelli getting the severe concussion, and
that guy
and getting brain cancer, and I don't know if those are related at all, but
no.
So,
but that guy,
ultimately,
he had a bad
it's
deal.
just a matter of like it goes back to like everything else. Like, just don't be shitty to each other. Like, just be a decent fucking person, and everybody's gonna be better because of it. You're gonna put on a better show. You're gonna have a better time. Just don't be an asshole, and let this really caustic, acerbic nature of this business, let this aspect die. Let it go away.
And like I mentioned earlier, Bret Hart, he was a perfect example of his time. Even now, he talked about,
Be Bret Hart.
Be a Bret Hart.
All right.
Don't be a star, be a Bret Hart.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
That's going to wrap it up for us, ladies and gentlemen. Or do you want to you did the intro? You did the intro.
Go ahead, do the outro. No,
okay. All right, we'll do the outro.
You got everything memorized for the outro. That's fine.
True.
Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
So
change the questions on Twitter and YouTube's and
hope
the
you enjoyed this
Facebooks
episode. If you're listening to it on YouTube, be sure
SoundClouds.
to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to this on iTunes, be sure to give us a nice 5-star review. Say some nice words about us. If you want to get in touch with us, be sure to email us changethequestions@gmail.com. You can also check us out on Twitter @ChangeInTheQs, which is @ChangeInTheQS. Also be sure to like us on Facebook and check out our other shows, all on our YouTube channel. We have on Monday, Time Warp. Tuesdays and Thursdays, of course, Change the Questions. On Wednesdays, we have Booking a Better Wrestler. And on Fridays, we have Let's Play Total Extreme Wrestling for my partner and intro man, Mike Miner.
See you guys.
My name is Paul Laporte, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.